The invitation to my son Michael's engagement party arrived by email, not even a proper card. Casual gathering at Victoria's family estate, it read, followed by an address I knew all too well. After all, I'd signed the paperwork to purchase it less than 3 months ago through one of my holding companies. I adjusted my simple pearl necklace in the mirror, understated, but worth more than most cars. 25 years of strategic investments had turned my late husband's insurance payout into an empire. Though I'd kept that fact carefully hidden from our son. James had always wanted Michael to make his own way in the world. Mrs. Harrison. My property manager's voice crackled through the phone. The Montgomery estate is prepared for today's event. Should I inform the staff about your arrival? No, Robert. Let's maintain the illusion a while longer. I smiled, remembering how eagerly Victoria's family had accepted my shell company's cash offer for their struggling estate. Amazing how quickly old money could disappear when the next generation didn't know how to manage it. The gravel crunched under my modest sit-in as I drove through the estate's gates. Luxury vehicles lined the circular driveway, Bentleys, Maseratis, and other symbols of wealth that meant little to those who actually had it. I purposely parked near the service entrance, curious to see how this would play out. Michael spotted me as I walked toward the main entrance, his face contorting in panic. He hurried over, designer shoes clicking on the marble steps. Mom, what are you doing? The staff entrance is around back. He glanced nervously at the gathering crowd of socialites on the terrace. Hello to you too, dear. I adjusted my handbag, Hermes, but an older model that didn't scream new money. Is that any way to greet your mother? Please, Mom. His voice dropped to a whisper. Victoria's family, they're very particular about these things. You understand, right? With your background. My background. He meant the years I spent building businesses while he attended private schools, never realizing those same schools were now owned by my education investment group. Of course, dear. I smiled. I know exactly how particular the Montgomerys are, especially about money. Mother, he hissed. Just use the back door, okay, and maybe don't mention your work. Victoria's father is very traditional about women in business. I bit back a laugh, remembering how eagerly Mr. Montgomery had negotiated with my female CEO during the estate's sale. I wouldn't want to embarrass you, I said softly. Though I'm curious, did Victoria mention how her family managed to keep the estate? What do you mean? They've owned it for generations. He straightened his Italian silk tie. A gift from me last Christmas, though he thought it came from his trust fund. Of course, I patted his cheek. Well, I'll just go around back then. Wouldn't want to upset the natural order of things. I walked toward the service entrance, noting how the staff avoided eye contact. They'd been warned about the mother who didn't know her place. Inside, Victoria was directing caterers with the practiced air of someone who'd never worked a day in her life. Michael's mother. She barely glanced my way. Staff refreshments are in the kitchen. Please try to remain out of sight during the main event. How thoughtful. I settled into a kitchen chair, watching the controlled chaos around me. I hear congratulations are in order. Not just the engagement, but the estate too. It must be such a relief that your family managed to keep it. She stiffened slightly. I don't know what you mean. This house has been in my family for generations. I pulled out my phone, checking the investment alerts that had just come through. Speaking of houses, did Michael tell you about his trust fund conditions? The one he gets at 30? She smiled smugly. Yes, we've been planning the renovations already. This place could use some updating. I raised an eyebrow. Interesting plans, considering the trust doesn't exist anymore. What? She spun around, perfectly styled hair whipping through the air. I dissolved it last month. I stood up, brushing off my skirt. Along with acquiring some interesting property in the area. Amazing what you can buy when old families can't pay their debts. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. No. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder. Maybe we should discuss this with your father. I believe he's familiar with Harrison Global Holdings. Her eyes widened. Everyone in high finance knew that name. They just didn't know it belonged to a woman who was currently being treated like the help at her own property. You're lying, she whispered. Am I? I smiled. Let's find out. I believe it's time for the engagement toast. Shall we join the party through the front door? Or would you prefer I use the service entrance to announce the estate's new ownership? Victoria swayed slightly, her perfect world cracking at the edges. Does Michael know about my success? No, his father wanted him to learn the value of hard work. I moved toward the main hall, though it seems he's learned some other lessons instead. Wait, she grabbed my arm. Please, let me talk to him first. Of course. I checked my watch. You have until the toast. Though you might want to warn your father too. Harrison Global is reviewing all its recent acquisitions, including this estate's management. I watched her hurry away, heels clicking frantically on the marble floors. In the kitchen, the staff suddenly found reasons to look busy, though I caught several hidden smiles. Mrs. Harrison, a young server approached cautiously. We didn't know it was you. That was rather the point. I stood up. Now, I believe it's time to rejoin my son's engagement party. Through the front door, of course. After all, I hadn't spent 25 years building an empire just to be sent through the back door of my own house. The main ballroom buzzed with expensive perfume and even more expensive gossip. I watched from the kitchen doorway as Victoria cornered her father near the champagne fountain, her urgent whispers causing his face to cycle through various shades of red. Ma'am? Robert, my property manager, appeared at my elbow. The staff has been informed. Should we proceed with the changes? I checked my watch, 20 minutes until the toast. Begin quietly. Let's see if anyone notices. One by one, the uniformed staff began removing certain paintings from the walls. Specifically, the ones the Montgomerys had tried to secretly sell last month to cover their debts. In their place went pieces from my personal collection, including a particular Monet that Victoria's father had failed to acquire at auction last year. Mother? Michael appeared, his face ashen. Victoria's telling me crazy things. About you, about Harrison Global. Are they crazy? I adjusted my simple pearl necklace. Or just inconvenient to the story you've been telling everyone about your simple mother. But, all these years, he looked lost, like a little boy who once proudly told his kindergarten class that his mommy was the smartest person he knew, before status and society warped his values. Did you ever wonder how your trust fund stayed so healthy? How you could afford that apartment in Manhattan? That convenient job at Preston Financial? I earned that job. Did you? I pulled out my phone, showing him an email. Or did Harrison Global's quiet word with the board earn it for you? His hands started shaking. Why didn't you tell me? Your father wanted you to build your own success. I wanted to see what kind of man you'd become with and without money. I gestured around the ballroom. I think we both got our answer today. Victoria approached, clutching her father's arm. Mr. Montgomery looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Mrs. Harrison, I believe we need to talk. About what? I smiled pleasantly. The estate's deed. The paintings currently being relocated? Or perhaps your daughter instructing me to use the service entrance of my own home. Your home, Michael's voice cracked. But this is the Montgomery's estate. Was, Mr. Montgomery corrected, sweat beading on his forehead. Until certain financial arrangements necessitated a sale. To my holding company, I added. Though I'm curious why you didn't mention this to the happy couple while they were making renovation plans with my money. Victoria's perfect makeup couldn't hide her blotching complexion. Daddy, do something. Yes, Richard, I said smoothly. Do something. Perhaps start by explaining why you've been selling off assets while pretending to maintain your lifestyle. Assets that now belong to me? The whispers had stopped. The entire party was watching now, their practiced society masks slipping as they witnessed the careful facade crumbling. Mom, Michael stepped forward. I never knew. Clearly, I turned to face the crowd. You never knew because you chose not to see. All of you did. Too busy deciding who belongs where, who enters through which door. Robert appeared again. Ma'am, the changes are complete. I nodded, watching realization dawn as guests finally noticed the switched paintings, the subtle signs of new ownership throughout the mansion. Thank you, Robert. I believe it's time for that toast. Wait. Victoria's voice bordered on hysteria. You can't. This is our engagement party. Is it? I raised an eyebrow. Because according to the property contract, all events must be approved by the owner. And I don't recall approving anything. The silence was deafening. Michael stared at me, then at the Montgomerys, then at the guests who were already edging toward the exits, sensing the shift in social power. "So what now?" he finally asked. "You're going to humiliate us? Throw us out?" "No," I picked up a champagne glass. "I'm going to teach you the lesson your father and I should have taught you years ago." I clinked my glass, drawing everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to propose a toast to appearances and to reality, to front doors and back doors and the foolishness of judging anyone by which one they use." Victoria's father seemed to shrink into his custom suit. Her mother clutched her pearls so hard I feared they'd break. "To my son," I continued, "who has a choice to make. Continue playing these society games with borrowed status, or remember the values we tried to teach you before you decided your mother was something to be ashamed of." Michael's face crumpled. "Mom, I'm so sorry." "I know," I set down my glass. "But sorry isn't enough. Actions matter. Choices matter." "What do you want us to do?" Victoria asked, her voice small. "That depends." I turned to face them fully. "Do you want to keep playing pretend with your family's fading fortune? Or would you like to learn how real success is built?" The room held its breath. In the silence, I could almost hear the calculations happening behind every carefully maintained society smile. "The house is still available for your wedding," I said quietly, "but not as a Montgomery property, as what it truly is, one of many properties in a portfolio built by a woman you thought belonged in the back room." Michael stepped forward, then did something that surprised me. He walked to the service entrance and opened it wide. "No more back doors," he said firmly. "No more pretending." He turned to Victoria. "If you want to be with me, it's time to see my mother for who she really is, who I should have been proud of all along." Victoria looked between her father, who seemed to have aged 10 years in the last hour, and Michael, who suddenly appeared stronger, more genuine than I'd seen him in years. The choice she made would determine more than just their relationship. It would decide whether they'd learn to build something real or continue living on borrowed prestige. I picked up my purse, ready to leave them to their decision. After all, the best lessons are learned when people have to face the consequences of their own choices. 3 months later, I sat in my office overlooking Central Park, reviewing the quarterly reports from my various holdings. The Montgomery estate, now officially Harrison Manor, had become one of our most profitable venues for high-end corporate events. Amazing what proper management could do. A knock at my door revealed Michael, looking different in business casual rather than his usual bespoke suits. "Mom, do you have a minute?" I gestured to the chair across from me. He'd started working in our property management division last month. Entry level, no special treatment. Just like every other employee. "Victoria's family is selling their Hampton house," he said without preamble. "They can't afford the upkeep anymore." "I know." I closed my laptop. "Their financial advisor contacted us about a potential purchase. Are you going to buy it?" "No," I smiled at his surprise. "Sometimes the best lessons come from losing things. Your future in-laws need to learn that lesson for themselves." He nodded slowly. "Victoria's different now. Since she started working at that nonprofit, she actually seems happier." After the engagement party revelation, Victoria had shocked everyone by declining her family's offer to find her a suitable position at a family friend's company. Instead, she'd taken a job at a foundation helping underprivileged women start businesses. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "And you?" I asked. "Any regrets about giving up the corner office at Preston Financial?" "Only that I didn't see things clearly sooner." He leaned forward. "The staff at the manor, they told me stories about when you first bought it. How you knew all their names, their kids' names. How you paid for Maria's daughter's college. Success isn't just about acquiring assets," I said quietly. "It's about understanding their true value, including people." "I get that now." He pulled out a folder. "Actually, that's why I'm here. I've been working on a proposal for converting part of the manor into a business training center, teaching entrepreneurship to people who wouldn't normally have access to that world." I raised an eyebrow, taking the folder. The proposal was detailed, thoroughly researched, with realistic budgets and clear objectives. Nothing like the vague investment opportunities he used to chase. Victoria helped, he admitted. Her experience at the foundation. She sees things differently now. We both do. And the Montgomerys? What do they think about their former estate becoming a training center for the common people? He grimaced. They're not thrilled. But they're not in a position to object anymore. Besides, he straightened in his chair, it's not their opinion that matters. Pride, Real pride, not the artificial kind, swelled in my chest. The proposal needs work, I said, making notes in the margins. But the concept is solid. Set up a proper presentation for next week. We'll review it with the board. His face lit up, then turned serious. No special treatment though, right? If they don't like it, then you'll revise and try again. I handed back the folder. That's how real success works. He stood to leave, then paused. The wedding's next month. We changed everything, smaller venue, focusing on family and friends who actually matter. And he smiled. Victoria insists you enter through the front door. She wants you to give a speech about building something meaningful. I'm proud of you, I said softly. Both of you. After he left, I walked to my office window, remembering another view from years ago, through the back door of a mansion, watching the wealthy play their status games. Now my son was learning the same lessons I had, that true worth isn't in which door you use, but in what you build once you walk through it. My phone buzzed, a message from Victoria. She was organizing a fundraiser for her foundation, asking if she could host it at the manor. The ballroom has the perfect energy, she wrote. Maybe because its owner knows what it's like to build something from nothing. I smiled, typing my response. The manor's ballroom would indeed be perfect, especially since we'd replace all the old portraits of Montgomery ancestors with photographs of successful entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds. Each picture told a story of someone who'd walked through the back door and emerged through the front. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in proving people wrong, but in teaching them to be better. My son and his fiancée had learned that lesson well. The invitation to Preston and Whitmore's 50th anniversary celebration sat on my desk, its gold embossing catching the morning light. Not the standard invitation. This was the VIP version sent to major shareholders. My son Thomas had no idea I'd received one, just as he had no idea that his prestigious law firm's mysterious majority stakeholder was his own mother. Ms. Sullivan. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your son is here about lunch. Send him in, Sarah. I quickly slipped the invitation into my drawer, replacing it with paperwork from my other holdings. The door opened to reveal Thomas in his perfectly tailored suit, every inch the successful young attorney he'd worked so hard to become. Mom. He kissed my cheek perfunctorily, his eyes darting around my modest office. The space was intentionally understated, just one of many careful choices I'd made to maintain my cover as a small-time property manager rather than the owner of a billion-dollar investment empire. This is nice, he said, in a tone that meant exactly the opposite. Have you considered the renovation offer I mentioned? I know some excellent contractors. Uncomfortable here. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. How's the partnership track going? His face lit up. Actually, that's what I wanted to discuss. The anniversary gala tomorrow night. All the major partners will be there, including our mystery investor. He straightened his Italian silk tie, a gift from me, though he thought it came from his trust fund. It could be my chance to make senior partner early. That's wonderful. I kept my face neutral, remembering last week's board meeting where I'd anonymously reviewed his file. He was good at his job, but not quite as exceptional as he believed. Will Victoria be attending? Of course. Her father's on the board. He shifted uncomfortably. Listen, Mom, about tomorrow night. Maybe we could have our own celebration another time. The guest list is very exclusive, and your mother's background might embarrass you. I finished quietly. It's not that, he protested too quickly. It's just, these people, they're very particular about image. Victoria's father especially. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. I understood how Howard Preston II had nearly bankrupted the firm his grandfather built before my investment group stepped in 5 years ago. I understood how Victoria's father, James Whitmore, had voted against hiring Thomas until he learned of his trust fund and connections. Of course I understand. I smiled, thinking of the changes I'd approve for tomorrow's event. You need to maintain appearances. Relief flooded his face. Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd get it. Maybe next weekend we can do lunch at that little diner you like. The little diner was actually an exclusive chef's table I owned, but Thomas assumed its understated exterior meant it was beneath his new social circle. Amazing how perception clouded reality. Actually, I said, checking my calendar, I'll be at the gala tomorrow night. He nearly choked on his imported water. What? How? The cleaning service I manage handles the building's maintenance. Another careful misdirection. My company owned the entire building, along with half the block. I'll be overseeing the event staff. Mom? No. Real panic crossed his face. You can't. Victoria's family, the partners, they can't see you working as a glorified janitor. The words hung in the air between us. 25 years of sacrifice, of building an empire in secret while raising him alone, reduced to glorified janitor. Interesting choice of words. I kept my voice level. Tell me, Thomas, have you ever wondered how you got that interview at Preston and Whitmore? Or how your trust fund stays so healthy? I earned my position, he said stiffly, through hard work and talent. Did you? I pulled out my phone, showing him his original application, the one that had been quietly flagged for rejection until my office intervened. Or did you benefit from connections you didn't know you had? Color drained from his face. What are you saying? I'm saying that tomorrow night will be very educational. I stood up, smoothing my simple but impeccably tailored suit. For everyone. Mom, please. He followed me to the door. Whatever you're planning, don't ruin this for me. The Whitmores, the partners. They're my future. I paused, studying my son's face. Somewhere between his Ivy League education and his corner office, he'd forgotten the lessons I tried to teach him about judging people by appearances. Your future. I opened a door. We'll see about that tomorrow night. Oh, and Thomas, do remember to be polite to the cleaning staff. You never know who might be signing their checks. He left in a confused haze, probably already crafting excuses to tell Victoria about his embarrassing mother. Let him worry. Tomorrow night would reveal more than just the identity of Preston and Whitmore's majority shareholder. After all, I hadn't spent 25 years building an empire to have my own son tell me to use the service entrance. Sometimes the most valuable lessons about respect come in the most expensive packages. And tomorrow's lesson would cost some people everything they thought they owned. The Preston and Whitmore lobby buzzed with expensive perfume and even more expensive egos. I watched from near the service elevator as Thomas worked the room, his arm linked with Victoria's as they navigated the social hierarchy with practiced ease. Everything is prepared, Miss Sullivan, my head of operations whispered. The board documents are ready, and the ownership transition papers are in place. Perfect. I straightened my designer dress, Valentino, though subtle enough to pass for a department store find. Has anyone noticed the changes yet? No, ma'am, though Mr. Preston seems agitated about the new artwork in the conference room. I smiled, remembering how I'd ordered the removal of the firm's founding partners' portraits, replacing them with modern pieces from my private collection. The same collection Preston had tried to buy from last year, unaware that the mysterious collector who'd refused his offers was his majority shareholder. Mom? Thomas appeared suddenly, his face tight with anxiety. What are you wearing? I thought you were here with the cleaning staff. Change of plans. I adjusted my simple pearl necklace, the one his father had given me before he died, worth more than Thomas's yearly salary. I received an invitation. Impossible, Victoria cut in, appearing at his side. Daddy personally approved the guest list. No offense, she added with a practiced society smile. But this is a partners-only event. Is it? I checked my watch. Speaking of partners, isn't your father supposed to make the opening speech soon? Yes, announcing the mysterious major shareholder. She practically bounced with excitement. Daddy says they're finally revealing themselves tonight. Some foreign investment group, apparently. Thomas gripped her arm. Victoria, maybe we should. Thomas. James Whitmore's voice boomed across the lobby. There's someone I want you to meet. Oh, he stopped short, seeing me. I wasn't aware the cleaning service was joining us tonight. The cleaning service isn't. I smiled pleasantly. But I am. Mother, Thomas hissed, please don't make a scene. A scene? Howard Preston Ayala approached, his bow tie slightly askew. Is there a problem here? No problem, I said, watching the security team take their positions. Though you might want to straighten your tie before the shareholders' announcement. Preston's face reddened. I don't know who you think you are. Actually, my head of operations interrupted smoothly. That's exactly what tonight is about. He handed me a folder. The papers you requested, Ms. Sullivan. Or should I say, Chairwoman? The silence that followed was delicious. Thomas swayed slightly, while Victoria's perfect smile froze in place. Chairwoman? Preston choked out, but you're. The cleaning lady. I opened the folder, extracting the ownership documents. Amazing how easy it is to observe a company's true nature when they think you're invisible. Like watching a senior partner bill clients for personal expenses. I looked pointedly at Preston, or seeing board members trade on inside information. My gaze shifted to Whitmore. You can't prove anything, Whitmore blustered, but his complexion had turned ashen. Actually, I can. I nodded to my team, who began distributing documents to the gathering crowd of partners. 5 years of documented violations, all collected while you were too busy judging people by appearances to notice who was really watching. Thomas grabbed a document, his hands shaking as he read. Mom, you own the firm? Among other things, I turned to address the stunned crowd. Preston and Whitmore is under new management, effective immediately. Mr. Preston and Mr. Whitmore are hereby removed from their positions, pending investigation. You can't do this. Victoria's father lunged forward, only to be blocked by security. I can, and I have. I pulled out another document. You might want to call your broker. Your voting shares were sold this morning. Apparently, there were some irregularities in your trading accounts that required immediate liquidation. The room erupted in chaos. Partners frantically checked their phones, watching their carefully constructed world crumble. Victoria disappeared into the crowd, leaving Thomas standing alone, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Why? He whispered. All these years. Because your father wanted you to succeed on merit, not name. I stepped closer. Because I wanted to see what kind of man you'd become when you thought you had no advantages. And, his voice cracked. And now I know. I handed him a final document, his performance review. You're a good lawyer, Thomas, but you've forgotten the most important lesson I tried to teach you. Which is? That character isn't measured by how you treat people you need to impress. I gestured to the cleaning staff, who were now openly watching the drama unfold. It's measured by how you treat people you think can't help you. The reality of his behavior over the past years seemed to hit him all at once. The dismissive treatment of support staff, the embarrassment over his working-class mother, the social climbing at the expense of genuine relationships. What happens now? He asked quietly. That depends on you. I straightened his tie. Another gift he'd never known came from me. The firm needs lawyers who understand both success and humility. The question is, are you ready to learn both? He looked around the room, at the partners scrambling to save their positions, at Victoria arguing with her disgraced father, at the staff who no longer hid their knowing smiles. I'd like to learn, he said finally, from the beginning. No advantages. Good. I handed him a new employee badge, entry level, his name only, because tomorrow you start over. As does this firm. After all, sometimes the best way to build something worthy is to tear down the facade and start with truth as the foundation. The cleaning staff began serving champagne, vintage bottles I'd selected personally. It seemed fitting that the people Thomas had once ignored would be the ones witnessing his first step toward becoming the man I'd always hoped he'd be. 6 months later, I sat in my newly renovated office at Preston and Whitmore, now simply Harrison Legal Group, reviewing applications for our new community legal aid program. The firm had transformed from a symbol of old money privilege into a force for change in corporate law. A knock at my door revealed Thomas carrying a stack of files and wearing a much more modest suit than his former designer wardrobe. The pro bono cases you requested, he said, placing them on my desk, and the junior associates are ready for their mentoring session. I studied my son, not the polished facade he'd once presented, but the genuine person emerging from beneath years of artificial prestige. Starting over as a junior attorney had been hard, but he'd surprised everyone with his dedication. How's Victoria? I asked, though I already knew. Our security team had reported her last week, attempting to access the building after hours. Still angry, he sat down heavily. She's been calling, saying her father could fix things if I helped him regain control of some shares. And I told her that integrity isn't negotiable. A small smile played at his lips. Something I should have learned years ago. The transformation hadn't been easy. After the gala revelation, many of Thomas's so-called friends had disappeared along with their positions and privileges. But others had emerged, particularly among the staff he'd once ignored, who now watched his journey toward redemption with cautious optimism. The cleaning staff invited me to their holiday party, he said suddenly. not as a boss or a lawyer, but just me, Maria's daughter, the one whose college you paid for. She's graduating law school next year. I've been helping her prep for interviews. Pride, real pride, not the artificial kind, warmed my chest. Life has a way of coming full circle. Mom, he leaned forward. Why did you ever tell me about the empire you built? I considered the question carefully. Would you have learned the same lessons if I had? Before he could answer, my assistant buzzed. Miss Sullivan, the new legal aid clients are here. Send them in. I stood watching Thomas straighten instinctively, ready to help people who remind you of who we really are. He nodded, moving to open the door, the same door he'd once been ashamed to have his mother enter through. A family walked in, their clothes worn but neat, their expressions nervous but determined. The father had lost his small business to predatory lenders, the same type of financiers Thomas used to represent. Welcome to Harrison Legal, Thomas said warmly, pulling out chairs for them. Tell us your story. As they spoke, I watched my son take notes, ask thoughtful questions, and treat them with the respect he finally learned was every person's due. No artificial charm, no condescension, just genuine commitment to helping people navigate the system he now understood from both sides. We can't afford much, the father said apologetically. That's not a concern, Thomas assured them, catching my eye. This firm was built by someone who taught me that true value isn't measured in billing hours. After they left, hope replacing fear in their eyes, Thomas lingered in my office. The holiday party next week, he said carefully. Would you come as yourself this time? No pretense, no hidden identity. Are you sure? What would your remaining social circle think? He laughed, a real laugh, not the practiced chuckle he'd once used at cocktail parties. I think they'd better get used to my brilliant mother being exactly who she is. I picked up a framed photo from my desk. Thomas at age 5, proudly showing off a drawing of his mom as a superhero. Somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten that little boy's wisdom about what really made someone special. The cleaning staff is coming too, he added. Maria's bringing her famous empanadas. And I thought maybe we could announce the scholarship program. The one for children of service workers? You mean the Thomas Harrison Memorial Scholarship? I smiled at his surprise. Named after a young lawyer who learned to see people's true worth. His eyes misted slightly. Thank you, Mom, not just for the empire you built, but for caring enough to tear down mine so I could build something better. As he left my office, through the front door, head held high, I thought about legacy, not the kind bought with money or status, but the kind built through actions and choices. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our children is the chance to fail at being who they think they should be, so they can succeed at becoming who they really are. I traced my finger across the society page photograph. My daughter Sophia, radiant in designer clothes, surrounded by Manhattan's elite at the Grand Plaza Hotel's annual charity ball. The caption listed the attending socialites but failed to mention that the hotel's owner was the same woman they deemed too uncultured to join their circle. Ms. Harrison, my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your daughter is here for your lunch meeting. Send her in, Rebecca. I slipped the newspaper into my drawer, next to the stack of property deeds and ownership documents that proved I controlled most of their favorite haunts. Sophia breezed in, Hermes scarf trailing elegantly, her entire outfit probably worth more than what her friends assumed I made in a year. The irony, of course, was that her trust fund, which she believed came from her late father's investments, was merely a fraction of my actual wealth. Mom, she air-kissed my cheek, careful not to smudge her perfect makeup. This office, have you considered my suggestion about an interior decorator? Madison's mother knows someone divine who cold. I'm comfortable here. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. The office was intentionally modest, just another piece in the carefully constructed image I maintained as a small-time property manager rather than the owner of a vast hospitality empire. If you say so, she perched on the edge of the chair, eyeing my simple decor with barely concealed disappointment. About tomorrow night's gala at the Windsor Gardens. The Children's Hospital benefit? I knew exactly which event she meant. I'd approved the venue donation myself, through one of my shell companies. Yes. She fidgeted with her Cartier bracelet, another gift she thought came from her trust fund. Listen, Mom, I know we usually do our monthly dinners on Thursdays, but could we reschedule? The gala is very exclusive, and your mother wouldn't fit in. I finished quietly. It's not that. Her protest came too quickly. It's just, these people, they're very particular. The Ashworths, the Montgomerys, they have certain expectations. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. I understood how Elizabeth Ashworth had nearly lost her family's fortune before my investment group quietly bailed them out. I understood how the Montgomerys' social status depended entirely on their membership at my clubs and their residency in my properties. Of course I understand. I smiled, thinking of the changes I'd recently approved for all my venues. You need to maintain appearances. Relief flooded her perfect features. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. Maybe we can do lunch next week at that little cafe you like. The little cafe was actually my first business acquisition, but Sophia assumed its understated charm and it was beneath her social circle standards. It was amazing how wealth could blind people to genuine value. Actually, I said, checking my calendar, I'll be at the gala tomorrow night. She nearly dropped her imported tea. What? How? The property management company I work for handles Windsor Gardens events. Another careful misdirection. I own the entire Windsor Gardens complex, along with most of the luxury properties in that district. I'll be overseeing the staff. Mom, no. Real panic flashed across her face. You can't. The Ashworths, the Montgomerys, they can't see you working as a glorified event planner. The words hung between us like crystal chandeliers about to shatter. 20 years of building an empire in secret while raising her alone, reduced to glorified event planner. Interesting perspective. I kept my voice level. Tell me, Sophia, have you ever wondered how you always get the best tables at the city's most exclusive restaurants? Or how your friends' membership applications to the Ocean View Club get approved so quickly when you recommend them? I earned my place in this circle, she said stiffly, through charm and social grace. Did you? I pulled out my phone, showing her the previous week's billing statements from her favorite venues, all ultimately payable to my parent company. Or have you been benefiting from connections you didn't know you had? Color drained from her perfectly bronzed face. What are you saying? I'm saying that tomorrow night will be very illuminating. I stood smoothing my simple but exquisitely tailored suit. For everyone. Mom, please. She followed me to the door. Whatever you're planning, don't embarrass me. The Ashworths, the Montgomerys, they're my whole world. I paused, studying my daughter's face. Somewhere between her Swiss finishing school and her social climbing, she'd forgotten the lessons I tried to teach her about authentic relationships and genuine worth. Your whole world. I opened the door. We'll see about that tomorrow night. Oh, and Sophia, do remember to be kind to the service staff. You never know who might own the roof over your head. She left in a flurry of designer perfume and confusion, probably already crafting excuses to her friends about her embarrassing mother. Let her worry. Tomorrow night would reveal more than just the true ownership of their favorite social venues. After all, I hadn't spent 20 years building an empire to have my own daughter tell me I wasn't good enough for her world. The Windsor Gardens grand ballroom sparkled with old money and new desperation. From my position near the service entrance, I watched Sophia work the room, air-kissing her way through Manhattan's elite as they congratulated themselves on their charitable generosity. Everything is in place, Ms. Harrison, my chief of operations murmured. The ownership announcements are ready, and the membership provisions have been processed. Excellent. I adjusted my understated channel dress, expensive but classic enough to pass as a department store find. Have they noticed the changes to the member portraits yet? No, ma'am, though Mrs. Ashworth seems distressed about the new placement cards at her usual table. I smiled, remembering how I'd instructed the staff to rearrange the seating hierarchy. The premium tables near the windows, usually reserved for the highest society families, now hosted the hospital's actual medical staff and long-term donors. Mother? Sophia materialized beside me, her face tight with anxiety. What are you wearing? I thought you were here to supervise the staff. Change of plans. I touched my simple pearl earrings, family heirlooms worth more than her friends' collective monthly shopping budgets. I received an invitation. That's impossible. Madison Ashworth cut in, appearing with her mother, Elizabeth. Mummy personally approved the guest list. No offense, she added with a practiced smirk. But this is a closed-circle event. Is it? I checked my watch. Speaking of circles, isn't your mother supposed to announce the new club ownership structure soon? Yes, Elizabeth brightened. finally meeting our mysterious benefactor. Apparently, they own half the luxury venues in Manhattan. Sophia gripped her champagne flute. Mother, perhaps you should. Sophia, darling. Margaret Montgomery's voice carried across the marble floor. You simply must come see. Oh, she stopped short, seeing me. I wasn't aware the event staff was joining the main party. The staff isn't. I smiled pleasantly. But I am. Mom, Sophia whispered urgently, please don't make a scene. A scene. Elizabeth Ashworth stepped closer, pearl necklace glinting. Is there some issue here? No issue, I said, watching my security team take their positions. Though you might want to check your club membership status before making assumptions. Elizabeth's face flushed. I don't know who you think you are. Actually, my chief of operations interrupted smoothly. That's exactly what tonight is about. He handed me the folder. The documents you requested, Ms. Harrison. Or should I say, owner and CEO. The silence that followed was worth every year of hiding in plain sight. Sophia swayed slightly, while Madison's champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers. The Windsor Gardens Grand Ballroom sparkled with old money and new desperation. From my position near the service entrance, I watched Sophia work the room, air-kissing her way through Manhattan's elite as they congratulated themselves on their charitable generosity. Everything is in place, Ms. Harrison, my chief of operations murmured. The ownership announcements are ready, and the membership revisions have been processed. Excellent. I adjusted my understated channel dress, expensive but classic enough to pass as a department store find. Have they noticed the changes to the member portraits yet? No, ma'am. Though Mrs. Ashworth seems distressed about the new placement cards at her usual table. I smiled, remembering how I'd instructed the staff to rearrange the seating hierarchy. The premium tables near the windows, usually reserved for the highest society families, now hosted the hospital's actual medical staff and long-term donors. Mother? Sophia materialized beside me, her face tight with anxiety. What are you wearing? I thought you were here to supervise the staff. Change of plans. I touched my simple pearl earrings, family heirlooms worth more than her friends' collective monthly shopping budgets. I received an invitation. That's impossible. Madison Ashworth cut in, appearing with her mother, Elizabeth. Mummy personally approved the guest list. No offense, she added with a practiced smirk. But this is a closed-circle event. Is it? I checked my watch. Speaking of circles, isn't your mother supposed to announce the new club ownership structures soon? Yes, Elizabeth brightened. Finally meeting our mysterious benefactor. Apparently, they own half the luxury venues in Manhattan. Sophia gripped her champagne flute. Mother, perhaps you should. Sophia, darling. Margaret Montgomery's voice carried across the marble floor. You simply must come see. Oh, she stopped short, seeing me. I wasn't aware the event staff was joining the main party. The staff isn't. I smiled pleasantly. But I am. Mom, Sophia whispered urgently, please don't make a scene. A scene. Elizabeth Ashworth stepped closer, pearl necklace glinting. Is there some issue here? No issue, I said, watching my security team take their positions. Though you might want to check your club membership status before making assumptions. Elizabeth's face flushed. I don't know who you think you are. Actually, my chief of operations interrupted smoothly. That's exactly what tonight is about. He handed me a folder. The documents you requested, Ms. Harrison. Or should I say, owner and CEO. The silence that followed was worth every year of hiding in plain sight. Sophia swayed slightly, while Madison's champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers. Owner? Elizabeth choked out. But you're... The help? I opened the folder, extracting membership records. It's amazing what you learn about people's character when they think you're beneath them. Like hosting unauthorized private parties. I looked pointedly at Margaret, or running unauthorized credit tabs. My gaze shifted to Elizabeth. You can't prove anything, Margaret sputtered, but her designer clutch trembled in her hands. Actually, I can. I nodded to my team, who began distributing documents throughout the ballroom. 5 years of documented violations, all collected while you were too busy judging people's worth by their social connections. Sophie grabbed a document, her hands shaking as she read. Mom, you own everything? The Windsor Gardens, the Ocean View Club, the Grand Plaza. Among other things. I turned to address the growing crowd of stunned socialites. Effective immediately, all membership structures are being revised based on actual contributions to the community, not family names or bank accounts. You can't do this. Margaret's voice rose hysterically. Do you know who we are? I know exactly who you are. I pulled out another document. Just as I know who approved your mortgages, your business loans, and your children's trust funds. The room erupted in chaos. Society matrons clutched their pearls, watching their carefully constructed social hierarchy crumble. Madison disappeared into the crowd, leaving Sophia standing alone, staring at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Why, she whispered, all these years? Because I wanted you to develop your own character, not inherit mine. I stepped closer. Because I needed to see who you become when you thought you had nothing but your own merit. And her voice cracked. And now I know. I handed her a final document, a list of every time she'd apologized for me, hidden me, or been embarrassed by my presence. You're my daughter, Sophia, but you've forgotten the most important lesson I tried to teach you. Which is, that true class isn't about who you exclude. I gestured to the service staff who were now watching openly. It's about who you choose to include. The weight of her behavior over the years seemed to hit her all at once. The dismissive treatment of staff, the shame over her working-class mother, the desperate pursuit of social approval at any cost. What happens now? She asked quietly. That depends on you. I straightened her designer dress. Another gift she'd never known came from me. These venues need people who understand both privilege and humility. The question is, are you ready to learn both? She looked around the ballroom, at her friends scrambling to save their social status, at Madison arguing with her disgraced mother, at the staff who no longer hid their knowing smiles. Teach me, she said finally, from the beginning, no shortcuts. Good. I handed her a new business card, entry-level event coordinator, her name only. Because tomorrow, you start learning what it really means to build something worthwhile. 6 months later, I reviewed the latest community outreach reports from my recently rebranded venues. The Windsor Gardens had transformed from an exclusive social club into a thriving cultural center, hosting everything from local art exhibitions to educational programs. Ms. Harrison, my assistant buzzed. Your daughter is here with the new charitable initiative proposals. Sophia entered, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, no designer labels in sight. She carried a stack of files and a genuine smile that had replaced her former society smirk. The Children's Hospital wants to expand their weekly art therapy sessions, she said, sitting down. And the scholarship committee needs final approval for the summer program. I studied my daughter, not the artificial socialite she'd once been, but the compassionate woman emerging from beneath years of superficial values. Starting over as an event coordinator had humbled her in ways I hadn't expected. How's Madison? I asked, though our management team had already reported the Ashworth's latest attempts to regain their premium memberships. Still trying to understand why money can't fix everything. Sophia shook her head. She offered to put in a good word with her mother's friends if I helped restore their old privileges. And I told her that integrity isn't for sale. A small smile played at her lips. Something I learned from watching a certain property manager build an empire on principles instead of pretense. The transformation had been remarkable. After the gala revelation, most of Sophia's social circle had vanished along with their exclusive access. But new relationships had blossomed, particularly with the staff members she'd once overlooked, who now worked alongside her in creating meaningful community programs. The service team is organizing a fundraiser, she said, her eyes bright with genuine enthusiasm. Maria from the kitchen staff. Her granddaughter needs heart surgery. We're converting the grand ballroom into a benefit dinner space. Pride warmed my chest. And the former premium members? They're welcome to attend at the standard ticket price, just like everyone else. She straightened in her chair. Though they'll have to follow the new dress code. No designer labels, no jewelry over $5,000. We want the focus on the cause, not the clothes. Speaking of causes, I pulled out a proposal. What do you think about converting the Ocean View Club's private dining rooms into a culinary training program for underprivileged youth? Her face lit up. Actually, I've been working on something similar with the kitchen staff. They've offered to teach traditional family recipes alongside professional techniques. Before I could respond, my assistant buzzed again. The hospital board members are here for the tour. We stood together, Mother and daughter, now aligned in purpose rather than divided by pretense. Ready to show them how we've reimagined the space? I asked. Ready to show them how we've reimagined everything, she replied, opening the door with confidence rather than condescension. The hospital administrators entered, a mix of doctors, nurses, and board members, their practical clothes a stark contrast to the former crystal and champagne crowd. Welcome to the new Windsor Gardens, Sophie said warmly, her tone genuine rather than practiced, where everyone enters through the front door and value is measured by contribution rather than connection. As she led the tour, I watched her interact with staff members by name, discussing their families and listening to their suggestions. The artificial barriers between service and served had dissolved, replaced by authentic community. Your daughter, my chief of operations observed quietly, she's become quite different from the young woman who used to hide you from her friends. She's become herself, I corrected. Sometimes people need to lose their artificial world to find their authentic worth. Later, as we reviewed the day's reports in my office, Sophia paused thoughtfully. Mom, thank you, not just for the empire you built, but for caring enough to let me fail at being someone I never really was. The best lessons, I replied, often come from our most uncomfortable moments. She nodded, understanding now what I tried to teach her all along, that true society isn't about excluding others, but about creating spaces where everyone can belong. As she left to meet with the fundraising team, I thought about legacy, not the kind measured in square footage or social status, but the kind built through transformed lives and authentic connections. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our children is the opportunity to discover that real worth isn't inherited or acquired. It's earned through the way we treat others, regardless of their perceived status. The security guard at Silver Lake Estates did a double take when he saw my 15-year-old Honda Civic. I could almost hear his internal debate. Call the police or risk offending someone important enough to have the gate code. Ma'am, this is a private community, he said, leaning toward my window with practiced authority. I smiled, remembering how my daughter-in-law had once used that same tone when telling me I couldn't attend my grandson's 5th birthday party. I know, I'm the new owner. His face flickered between disbelief and panic as he checked his updated resident list. I watched realization dawn as he found my name, not as a resident, but as the property management company's CEO. Ms. Zhang. We weren't expecting. Clearly, I handed him my ID, but then that's rather the point. The gates opened silently, and I drove past perfectly manicured lawns and Mediterranean-style mansions. My son Michael's house, or rather my house now, sat at the end of Monarch Drive, its 3-story facade gleaming in the California sun. I parked behind my daughter-in-law Victoria's Range Rover, knowing how she had it detailed again. Image was everything in her world, which was why she'd spent the last 5 years ensuring I stay firmly outside it. The doorbell chimed. It sounded exactly as pretentious as I remembered from my last rejected visit. Victoria opened the door, her carefully maintained smile freezing when she saw me. What are you doing here? She glanced nervously at the street, probably worried her neighbors might see. Michael's at work, and the children are at their activities. I know. I held up a folder. I'm here to discuss your lease agreement. Lease? She laughed, that practiced social titter she'd perfected. We own this house. Actually, I stepped past her into the marble foyer. You don't. Not anymore. This is ridiculous. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling security. Your new security company? I settled onto her imported Italian sofa. The one I hired last week. That stopped her. What are you talking about? 5 years ago, when you told me I couldn't attend Tommy's birthday party because I might embarrass you in front of your friends, I made a decision. I opened the folder. I decided to learn exactly what sort of people would judge a grandmother's worth by her bank account. If this is about class differences, this is about choices, Victoria, like your choice to return every Christmas gift I sent the children, or your choice to tell the school I wasn't authorized to attend their performances. Her perfect posture stiffened. We have certain standards. Yes, you made that clear when you told Michael his career would suffer if he kept bringing me to company events. I laid out the documents one by one, so I set some standards of my own. What are these? Property deeds, for every house in Silver Lake Estates. I watched her manicured hands tremble as she picked up the papers. It's amazing what you can accomplish when people underestimate you. No one notices the woman in modest clothes buying up shares in their management company. This is impossible. But her voice had lost its condescending edge. Our house wasn't even for sale. Everything's for sale at the right price. Your neighbors were quite eager to sell once they saw the offers. Even your father's company agreed it was a sound business decision. She sank onto the opposite sofa, her designer dress wrinkling. Does Michael know? About his mother secretly buying his house? No. About how his wife has systematically cut me out of their lives? Yes, as of this morning. The security footage I'd sent him had been enlightening. Years of documented incidents showing Victoria turning me away from their door, instructing staff to deny my existence, even throwing away the handmade blankets I'd knitted for the children. You can't just change everything, she whispered. Actually, I can, and I will. I stood smoothing my simple skirt, starting with the new community guidelines. All residents must participate in monthly neighborhood dinners, hosted in rotation, regardless of occupation or income. Children's parties must include all family members, and the community center will now offer free ESL classes and job training. You're destroying everything we built here. No, Victoria, I'm building something better. I walked to the family photos lining the walls, pictures that carefully excluded me. Your lease renewal depends on community participation. Real participation, not just writing checks for charity galas. And if we refuse, then you can explain to your social circle why you're moving to a less prestigious address. I turned to face her, but before you decide, you might want to check who owns most of the other prestigious properties in the area. The door opened, and I heard my grandchildren's voices in the hallway. Victoria moved to intercept them, but I was faster. Grandma? Tommy's eyes widened. At 10, he barely remembered me, but Lucy at 7 had never known me at all. Hello, sweetheart. I stayed where I was, letting them decide. Mom? Lucy looked uncertainly at Victoria. Is this really our grandma? Victoria's perfect mask cracked just slightly. She looked at the documents, at her children's curious faces, at the empire she'd built on exclusion, now owned by the very person she tried to exclude. Yes, she said finally. This is your grandmother. And she's staying for dinner. Actually, I picked up my bag. I have a board meeting. But I'm free tomorrow for that tour of the house you've been promising me for 5 years. I headed for the door, pausing beside her. Oh, and Victoria, the children's birthday parties this year will be at my house. The one with the Honda in the driveway. As I drove past the gate, the security guards snapped to attention. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about changing the rules that made you uneven in the first place. The Silver Lake Estates Community Center buzzed with uncomfortable energy as residents filed in for the first mandatory neighborhood meeting. I watched from my modest metal folding chair as Victoria and her social circle huddled in their usual corner, designer handbags clutched like shields. The new owner can't seriously expect us to attend monthly dinners, Margaret Whitman stage whispered. Some of these people probably eat at chain restaurants. Did you see the email about the community garden project? Patricia Reynolds added. They want us to actually dig in the dirt. I checked my watch. Exactly on time, my assistant began distributing the new community guidelines. Gasps and murmurs spread as people read the requirements: monthly volunteer hours, participation in cultural exchange programs, and mandatory inclusion in all community events regardless of social standing. This is outrageous. Howard Preston stood up, his golf tan darkening with anger. We bought into this community for exclusivity. Actually, I rose from my chair. You rented into this community. And now the terms have changed. The silence was immediate. Victoria sank lower in her seat as her friends turned to stare at her mother-in-law, the woman they'd been happily mocking moments before. I spent the past 5 years watching how this community treats people deemed unworthy, I continued. The service staff you ignore, the delivery people you force to use the back entrance, the families you exclude from your children's parties because their parents work in retail. We have standards, Margaret began. Yes, you do, self-serving ones. I walked to the podium. Let me tell you about different standards. My parents worked 16-hour days in a restaurant to put me through college. They taught me that real class isn't about what you own. It's about how you treat people who can't do anything for you. This is ridiculous, Patricia huffed. We'll appeal to the board. I am the board. I smiled. And the new rules are non-negotiable. participate fully, or find new housing. Though you might have trouble with that, since I also own most of the other luxury developments in the area. Victoria finally spoke up, her voice strained. Mother Jean, surely we can discuss this privately. Like you discussed keeping me from my grandchildren. I held up my phone. I have 5 years of security footage showing how you privately handle family matters. The room shifted uncomfortably as clips played on the wall screen. Victoria turning me away from parties, instructing security to deny my existence, throwing away handmade gifts I'd sent the children. That's different, she protested weakly. You're right. It is different, because unlike you, I'm not excluding anyone. I'm simply requiring this community to actually be a community. I nodded to my assistant, who unveiled the new community center schedule, ESL classes, job training programs, cultural exchange dinners, and youth mentorship opportunities. Your lease renewals, I continued, will depend on documented participation, not donations, actual involvement. And yes, Mrs. Whitman, some of it will involve getting your hands dirty in the community garden. You can't force us to associate with. Howard caught himself. With whom? People like me. I raised an eyebrow. The ones who built the fortune that just bought your privileged world. The door opened and Michael walked in. My son's face showed the strain of his morning spent reviewing years of security footage, seeing for the first time how his wife had systematically erased his mother from their lives. Mom's right, he said quietly. This changes today. Victoria's perfect composure cracked. Michael, you don't understand. I understand that our children don't know their grandmother because you decided she wasn't good enough. He turned to address the room. My mother spent her life building something meaningful while we wasted time judging people's worth by their zip codes. That ends now. The meeting continued with detailed explanations of the new requirements. Some residents stormed out, presumably to call their lawyers. They'd soon discover that my legal team had made everything perfectly binding. Afterward, as the shell-shocked residents filed out, Tommy and Lucy ran in from their after-school programs. Grandma, Tommy called out, no longer hesitant. Can you show us the pictures of Dad when he was little? He said you have albums. Of course, I hugged them both, noting Victoria's pained expression. How about dinner at my house? The one with the Honda in the driveway. Can we, Mom? Lucy turned to Victoria with pleading eyes. Victoria looked around the community center, at the ESL class setting up, at the retirement home residents arriving for their computer lessons, at the world she tried so hard to keep separate now merging whether she liked it or not. Yes, she said finally. We can have dinner at Grandma's. As we left, I overheard Margaret Whitman asking her husband if their realtor had any listings in other exclusive communities. Don't bother, I called back. I own those too. But if you're interested in actually earning your place somewhere, the community garden needs volunteers tomorrow. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about teaching people the difference between net worth and actual value. And as I watched my grandchildren skip ahead, chattering about what they wanted to learn about their father's childhood, I knew this lesson was just beginning. 6 months later, Silver Lake Estates had transformed. The once pristine community garden now flourished with vegetables and herbs, tended by an unlikely mix of former socialites and local farming experts. Children's laughter echoed from the playground where private tutors and public school teachers worked together in the after-school program. I sat on my modest front porch, sipping tea from my favorite chipped mug, watching Victoria awkwardly plant tomatoes with Mrs. Garcia, our former housekeeper who now ran the gardening education program. Mother, Michael joined me, setting down a stack of community center reports. The Cultural Exchange Dinner series is fully booked. Even the Whitmans signed up. Amazing what people can learn when their housing depends on it. I mused, remembering Margaret Whitman's initial horror at having to cook her own contribution rather than having it catered. Victoria approached, dirt smudging her designer gardening clothes. Mrs. Garcia says we'll have enough vegetables for the community food bank by next month. She hesitated, and she's offered to teach me her family's salsa recipe. The one you used to complain was too spicy when she worked here. I raised an eyebrow. She had the grace to blush. I've learned a lot these past months. Indeed, she had. The transformation hadn't been easy. Several families tried to fight the new requirements, only to discover that their precious social connections meant little against my legal team. Those who stayed had slowly, sometimes grudgingly, begun to participate in the community they previously only occupied. Tommy's teacher mentioned his history project, I said. About family immigration stories? Victoria nodded, settling into a porch chair, something she wouldn't have done 6 months ago. He's interviewing Mrs. Garcia's family. And she paused. He'd like to include your story too. About how you and his grandfather built everything from nothing. The mention of my late husband brought unexpected tears. He would have loved seeing our grandchildren finally learning about their heritage, understanding the value of hard work and genuine connections. Did you know, Michael said softly, that Lucy told her class she wants to be like Grandma when she grows up? Not for the business empire, but because she makes everyone feel like they belong. Victoria twisted her expensive wedding ring, a nervous habit she developed since the change in ownership. I never understood before. About belonging. I thought it was about keeping people out, but real belonging is about bringing people in, I finished. Even when, especially when, they're different from you. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the neighborhood. Through the trees, I could see Patricia Reynolds teaching English to the gardener's children, while her own daughter learned Spanish in return. Howard Preston's car dealership now offered apprenticeships to local vocational students. The community center hosted weekly dinners where Michelin-starred chefs sat beside home cooks, sharing stories and recipes. The children's birthday party is next week, Victoria said suddenly. I thought, maybe we could host it at your house. The one with the Honda in the driveway. The olive branch wasn't lost on me, only if Mrs. Garcia makes her special enchiladas. And you'll teach the kids to make dumplings like you used to make for me? Michael asked hopefully. Of course. I stood brushing off my simple pants. After all, that's what real family does, shares their history, their traditions, their true selves. A group of children ran past, a mix of residents' kids and those from neighboring communities that were no longer kept at bay by security gates. They were playing a game that involved both designer toys and handmade crafts, neither group caring about the difference. You know, Victoria said thoughtfully, Margaret asked me yesterday if you'd consider buying her sister's country club. Apparently, they're having similar inclusivity issues. I smiled, thinking of the portfolio of properties sitting on my desk. Maybe it's time for more communities to learn what real class looks like. As the sun set over Silver Lake Estates, I watched my grandchildren join the others in their game. Tommy was teaching Lucy how to make dumplings out of Play-Doh, just as I taught Michael decades ago. Victoria stood awkwardly nearby, clearly wanting to join but unsure how. Go on, I nudged her. Being part of a real community means sometimes getting your hands messy. She joined them, tentatively at first, then with growing enthusiasm as the children welcomed her into their circle. Michael squeezed my hand, both of us watching his wife finally learn that the best social circles are the ones that keep expanding, not contracting. The girls were eating breakfast when the doorbell rang. Even after 10 years, they still sat in the same spots. Emily by the window, Sarah closer to the kitchen. Some habits never change, even when everything else does. I knew who it was before I opened the door. After a decade of silence, my son David had suddenly resurfaced 3 days ago. His carefully worded email reading more like a legal document than a message from a son to his mother. Mom, he stood on my porch, looking both familiar and foreign. At 42, he had gained weight, lost hair, and acquired an expensive watch that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Behind him stood a woman in her early 30s, Jennifer, his new wife, according to the email, and 2 children around 7 or 8. The perfect nuclear family, except for the twins he had abandoned a decade ago. David. I didn't step aside to let them in. You're early. We thought, maybe we could all have breakfast together. Jennifer stepped forward, her smile professionally whitened. Get to know each other before you try to take my granddaughters? The words came out sharper than I intended, but 10 years of anger doesn't soften easily. They're my daughters, David said quietly. I have rights. Rights? I laughed, though nothing was funny. Where were those rights when they had chickenpox at 5? Or when Sarah broke her arm in gymnastics? Or during every birthday, Christmas, and school play for the past 10 years? I wasn't in a good place then, you know that. No, I don't know that. Because you never called, never wrote, never sent so much as a birthday card. The sound of chairs scraping against kitchen tile made us all turn. Emily and Sarah stood in the hallway, their 14-year-old faces showing nothing of the confused 4-year-olds they had been when their father walked away. "The girls from your pictures," Jennifer said brightly. "I'm Jennifer, and these are Tommy and Lisa." "Where?" "We know who you are," Emily cut in, her voice eerily calm. "We got the email, too." David stepped forward. "Emily, Sarah, you've grown so much." "That's what happens in 10 years," Sarah replied. She turned to me. "Grandma, we'll be late for swim practice." "Practice isn't until 11, David said, checking his watch. "You don't know our schedule," Emily said. "You don't know anything about us." The twins grabbed their backpacks, moving with the synchronized grace they had developed over years of competitive swimming. They brushed past their father without a glance, though Sarah paused beside me. "We won't be long, Grandma. Don't let them touch our stuff." I watched them walk down the driveway, back straight, heads high. They had learned early that showing weakness only makes the pain worse. "They hate me," David whispered. "They don't hate you," I corrected. "They just don't know you. There's a difference." "That's why we're here," Jennifer interjected. "To fix things, to be a family." "They have a family." I finally stepped aside, letting them enter. "But come in. We should talk about exactly what you think you're going to fix." The kitchen still showed signs of breakfast: 2 bowls of half-eaten cereal, training schedules magnetized to the fridge, a wall calendar marked with swim meets and academic competitions. "Sit." I gestured to the table. "Tommy, Lisa, there's cereal in the pantry if you're hungry." David's new children looked to their mother, who nodded permission. They moved cautiously, like visitors in a museum. "Our lawyer says," David began. "Your lawyer can wait." I pulled out Emily's latest report card, Sarah's medical records, thick folders documenting every day of the life he had missed. "First, you're going to learn about the daughters you abandoned." "I didn't abandon them. I just needed time." Time. I slapped down a photo album. Here's how they spent their time. Emily's first swim medal. Sarah's broken arm. Both of them crying on their 5th birthday because you didn't show up. Again. Jennifer reached for the album. We want to make it right. By tearing them away from their home. Their school. Their friends and activities. I shook my head. "They're not toys you can reclaim from storage." "They're my children," David insisted. "No," I met his eyes. "They were your children. Now they're my girls, and I won't let you hurt them again." The courts. The courts will see 10 years of documented abandonment. They'll see school records showing who attended every parent-teacher conference, medical records showing who made every decision, photos showing who was there for every milestone. I'm their father. Biology isn't enough. I pushed away from the table. When Emily had pneumonia at 6, where were you? When Sarah was bullied in 5th grade, who handled it? When they both qualified for nationals in swimming, who cheered from the stands? The silence was heavy with unspoken accusations. Through the window, I could see Tommy and Lisa in the backyard, staring at the wall of swimming trophies through the glass door. "We have a beautiful home in Seattle," Jennifer offered. "Private schools, swimming coaches. They already have those things. They have lives, friends, dreams that don't include playing happy family with strangers." "We're not strangers," David protested. "I'm their father." "Then prove it." I stood up. "Prove you deserve that title. Because right now, all you've proven is that you know how to walk away." The sound of a car door made us all turn. Through the window, I saw the twins getting into their coach's car, an hour early for practice, but I understood their escape. "They won't even talk to me," David said softly. "Talk?" I laughed again, bitter and sharp. 10 years of silence, and now you want to talk. They learn from you, David. They learned that some people leave without goodbye, that love comes with conditions, that fathers are optional. That's not fair. No, it wasn't fair. None of it was fair. But we built something from that unfairness, a life, a family, a future that doesn't depend on unreliable people. Jennifer touched David's arm. "Maybe we should go, come back when everyone's calmer." Running away again. I couldn't resist the dig. "At least you're consistent." They gathered their children, made awkward goodbyes, promised to return. I watched them drive away in their expensive SUV, back to their perfect new life that didn't have room for old mistakes. But they had forgotten something crucial. My girls weren't mistakes to be corrected. They were survivors who had learned to thrive without him. and I would fight with everything I had to protect the life we had built from the ashes of his abandonment. The lawyer's office was deliberately intimidating, all gleaming mahogany and leather-bound books. David sat across the conference table, Jennifer beside him, both wearing expressions of practiced concern. The courts generally favor biological parents, the lawyer said, sliding documents across the polished surface, especially when they can provide a stable two-parent household. I watched my own attorney, a sharp-eyed woman who'd been a swimming mom alongside me for years, examine the papers. She'd taken our case at a reduced rate, remembering how Emily and Sarah had taught her daughter to perfect her butterfly stroke. The courts also consider the children's established environment, she replied, opening her own file. Academic records, extracurricular achievements, community ties, not to mention their clearly expressed preferences. They're 14, David interjected. They don't understand what's best for them. No. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a video from last week's swim meet. This is Sarah breaking the state record in the 200-meter freestyle. And here's Emily's speech at the science fair last month. She won first place, by the way. That's wonderful, Jennifer said warmly. They'll have even better opportunities in Seattle, the private school we've chosen. They already attend the top-ranked school in the district, my lawyer interrupted. They're both on track for early college admission. Emily's already being scouted by Stanford's swim team. David shifted uncomfortably. We can maintain their swimming schedule. Can you? I spread out their training calendar. 5 AM practices, weekend meets, summer training camps. Are you ready to build your life around their dreams the way we have for the past decade? We're their parents, Jennifer insisted. We want what's best for them. You're strangers who share DNA with my girls, I corrected. You don't know their favorite foods, their fears, their hopes. You don't know that Sarah sleepwalks during finals week, or that Emily needs her lucky goggles before every race. The lawyers exchanged glances as tension filled the room. David's attorney cleared his throat. Mrs. Jong, no one is questioning your dedication. But legally. Legally? I pulled out another folder. Here are 10 years of documented abandonment, birthday cards returned unopened, child support checks that bounced, school forms with my signature because their father was unreachable. I had issues then, David protested. I've changed. Convenient timing, my lawyer noted, just after the twins' trust fund from their maternal grandmother matures next year. The room went silent. Jennifer's perfectly maintained smile slipped slightly. That's not, David started. Not why you're suddenly interested. Then explain why your first email mentioned their trust fund before asking about their well-being. More papers appeared, bank statements, investment reports, the carefully managed inheritance their maternal grandmother had left before passing away. I'd never touched a penny, saving it all for their future. The girls need their father, Jennifer tried again. No, I stood up, gathering my evidence of a decade's devotion. They needed their father 10 years ago, when they cried themselves to sleep asking why Daddy didn't want them. They needed him when they won their first medals, when they lost their first teeth, when they learned to read and write and dream. I faced my son, seeing not the successful businessman he'd become, but the coward who'd walked away from his responsibilities. You don't get to abandon your children for a decade and then claim parental rights when it's convenient. They're not accessories to complete your new perfect family picture. Mom. Save it. I headed for the door. The girls have a meet this weekend. Their real family will be there. Their coaches, their teammates, their friends. The people who chose to stay when you chose to leave. We'll see you in court, his lawyer called after me. Yes, I turned back one last time, you will. And you'll see exactly what family means to those girls. It means showing up every day, not just when it suits you. Outside, the twins waited in my old Honda. The one I'd kept running all these years because college funds mattered more than car payments. How did it go? Emily asked as I got in. About as expected. I started the engine. They're going to fight. Sarah squeezed my shoulder from the back seat. So will we, Grandma. We're better at it. We learn from you. Driving home, I watched them in the rearview mirror, these beautiful, strong girls who'd grown from abandoned toddlers into confident young women. David might share their DNA, but I shared their lives, their struggles, their triumphs. No court in the world could sever that bond because it wasn't built on biology or legal documents but on thousands of small moments of love, trust, and unwavering presence. Sometimes the strongest families are the ones that choose each other every single day. We have been choosing each other for 10 years, through tears and laughter, victories and defeats, always together, always certain of our place in each other's hearts. Let them come with their lawyers and their claims. We had something stronger than legal rights, love tested by time and strengthened by adversity, and that was worth fighting for. The courthouse steps were crowded with familiar faces, swim team families, teachers, coaches, and neighbors, all the people who had helped raise two abandoned little girls into strong young women. Your Honor, David's lawyer began, my client has reformed his life and created a stable home. May I speak? Emily stood, her voice steady. The judge nodded. 10 years ago, our father left us for a few days. We waited by the window every afternoon for months. Grandma never said he wasn't coming back. She just held us when we cried and taught us to be strong. Sarah joined her sister. She worked 2 jobs to keep us in swim training. She learned to French braid our hair for competitions, taught herself to cook healthy meals for athletes, and never missed a single meet. Objection, David's lawyer interrupted. This is emotional manipulation. No, the judge said firmly. This is relevant testimony about their primary caregiver and established environment. The twins continued, trading words like they traded laps in the pool. When I had nightmares, Emily said it was Grandma who sat up with me. When I failed math, Sarah added, she hired a tutor instead of buying herself new clothes. She taught us that family isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who shares your life. David sat slumped in his chair, Jennifer's hand on his arm, his perfect new family watching his old one slip away. The judge reviewed the documentation, years of school records, medical files, competition results. She studied the photos of birthday parties, holidays, and everyday moments that painted a picture of real family life. Mr. Zhang, she finally said, what's your daughter's favorite color? He blinked. Blue. Emily likes green, Sarah corrected. I'm the one who likes blue. Their best events in swimming. They swim competitively. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Zhang. Emily holds the state record in butterfly, but she's working on her backstroke for college scouts. Sarah's freestyle time is nationally ranked for her age group, and she's teaching younger kids at the community pool. More questions followed. Favorite subjects, friends' names, medical histories. With each answer, David's face fell further, reality settling in like chlorine at the bottom of a pool. The court finds, the judge announced, that the stable and nurturing environment provided by Mrs. Zhang is in the best interest of the minors. Custody will remain with their grandmother. Relief flooded the courtroom. Coach Martinez wiped away tears. Emily's science teacher pumped his fists. Sarah's best friend hugged her mother. However, the judge continued, Mr. Zhang may petition for supervised visitation after completing parenting classes and family counseling. Outside, David caught up to us. Mom, girls, please. We have practice, Emily said quietly. I could come watch sometime. Sarah studied him. Practices start at 5 a.m. Meets are usually all weekend. You'll have to earn your spot in the bleachers, just like Grandma did. They walked away, matching swim bags over their shoulders, leaving their father to decide if he was finally ready to do the hard work of being a parent. They're amazing, Jennifer said softly beside me. You did an incredible job. Yes, I agreed. I did. And if you both want to be part of their lives, you'll have to accept that. I'm not just their grandmother. I'm the mother they needed when their parents couldn't be. That evening, we celebrated with pizza, a rare treat during competition season. The girls curled up beside me on our worn couch, comfortable in their chlorine-scented hoodies. Think he'll actually show up to practice? Sarah wondered. Maybe, I said. But it doesn't matter. We're a family, not because we have to be, but because we choose to be. Every single day. Emily yawned. Like you chose us. No, I kissed their foreheads. Like we chose each other. Because sometimes the best families aren't born. They're built, one early morning practice, one homework session, one hug at a time. And ours was built on a foundation strong enough to withstand any storm, including the return of a father who had to learn that love isn't about rights or DNA or legal claims. It's about showing up, staying present, and choosing each other every single day for 10 years and counting. That's what makes a real family, and that's what we would always be.